Hey JoJo, how's the data for the new Bard changes, man? What is this? What is this? Good morning, gamers. Hello. Man, it feels like it's been forever. I have a pretty interesting video for you guys to answer some questions that I get when I'm making Parse parties, but first... So, why do I block Bard out of the physical range slot in my Parse parties? It's actually a great question that I used to give a feelsy crafty answer to without any real justification, so I wanted to put some numbers to it to show you guys. First off, I don't want this video to be used as some Bard flame tool or some toxic video that people use to push Bards out of their parties. Because as you will see later on, this video is literally only relevant for people who have already optimized their class and are playing their class at the top of its level and trying to push high ranks on the leaderboards. So since I try to compete at the top level of Final Fantasy XIV, and I try to push for top 10 parses, I hope this video will at least give you insight as to why I personally block Bard out of my parse parties. And I hope this video will show you at least some different cool information that you may not have even seen before. So first, let me explain my methodology to how I gathered this data. This took me a couple of hours to do because I'm stupid and I couldn't automate the process, but I went to the top ninja parses from 5.2. I then used the search tool in fflogs to sort by ninja parses with a specific job, so I compared how all of the physical range classes compare individually with ninja. Once I selected the physical range class I wanted to analyze at the time, I took the top 25 parses of ninja for that specific physical range combo and went through every single log of the top 25 for every single fight with that specific physical range class to find out how much total damage that class was doing under trick attack for a set amount of trick attack windows depending on the fight. For E5S, E6S, and E7S, I found the total damage done under 7 separate trick attack windows, since the 7th trick attack window is usually the pot and reopener window. And for E8S, I decided to find the total damage done under 5 trick attack windows, since the 5th trick attack window is the reopener after ad phase. And I was actually curious to see how Machinists compared, since I had heard a lot about how well they would do after ad phase. So if that was too much to follow, I basically have 25 data points per physical range class, and I'm finding how much total damage each of those classes do under trick attack windows. So let's check out the results. And please keep in mind that this is the total damage, not DPS, and the damage that will be shown is in millions. For Ramuh, Machinist and Dancer are almost on par for their average, although the standard deviation for Machinist is almost double the amount of Dancer's standard deviation. And while the standard deviation for Bard is actually very small, Bard falls short of both Machinist and Dancer by a large margin. On Ifrit and Garuda, we see a very slightly larger gap in the average damage between Machinist and Dancer, and Bard's gap is somewhat closer, but still quite noticeable. For Idol of Darkness, we see very large differences in average damage under trick attack between all 3 classes, as well as a huge standard deviation of nearly 450,000 damage for Machinist. And for Shiva, as I said at the start of the video, I decided to only focus on 5 trick attack windows, so this one can honestly be looked at more for fun. But the main reason I wanted to look at this specific amount of trick attacks for Shiva was because I kept hearing about how well Machinist was supposedly doing under the trick attack after ad phase, so I wanted to see how it would compare. And the results that I gathered actually show that to not be the case, even accounting for the standard deviation on both Machinist and Dancer, at least for parsing's sake and not speeds specifically. So what does all this data mean for a ninja who's trying to parse? Well, for a ninja who may not have gotten their first orange parse yet, this information really isn't as important as optimizing themselves. But for ninjas who are pushing high 99th percentile rankings such as top 25 or top 10, this actually is pretty important. And for those players, here's some generalization of the data. While Dancer barely outperforms Machinist on most fights, for example by only an average of 10,000 damage on Ramuh, Machinist does have a higher standard peak value. But the standard deviation on Dancer is much tighter. which means the damage under Trick Attack for a Dancer in your party will be much more consistent. And if we look at Dancer and compare the average amount of damage that Dancer is doing under Trick Attack to the average amount of damage that Bard is doing under Trick Attack, we can see that Dancer does about 500,000 more damage under Trick Attack than Bard does. And because ninjas only get 5% of that 500,000 damage, the total damage that ninja is actually missing out on for their parse is 25,000 damage, or about 60 RDPS across 7 Trick Attack windows. So we're talking about adding 60 RDPS to a ninja's damage, and that's assuming a 7-minute kill time. And obviously that DPS will come down between Trick Attack windows. So for someone who is consistently parsing gray, green, blue, purple, or orange, does this really matter? Does this 60 DPS really matter? I would say no. 25,000 damage is 1 global, and while damage variance is a obvious thing in this game, I've experienced it firsthand. There's obviously more optimization that those players can do for themselves, especially if they're on the lower end of that spectrum. And for the players who are trying to organize parse parties and they're trying to push for top 25 and they're trying to push for top 10, this absolutely matters. 60 RDPS in the top 25 can be the difference of up to 8 ranks, and it can totally be the difference between a rank 1 and a rank 2 parse. And while a ninja does have to be having a good run and they do have to have a good kill time, if you can help alleviate some of the variables that you cannot control, this just helps you have a better chance at shooting for a rank 1. And this is why I block Bard out of my parse parties, because I am there to parse and I am there to squeeze out every little bit of damage that I can possibly optimize, even if that does require me to optimize my party and only squeeze out an extra 25,000 damage. And again, to reiterate, this is not a stab at Bard, and this information should not be used to flame Bard players. I just wanted to be able to justify my reasoning for when I get questions all the time about why I'm blocking Bard out of my parties. And this really does not matter if you cannot play the ninja rotation optimally. I wish that I had more time to take more data points, but honestly, even after taking the first 10 data points of all the physical range classes, the range in numbers was still only around 100 to 200k within the standard deviation. And I do also understand that this is a somewhat generalized way of looking at total damage under Trick Attack, but I also think this is a good way of getting a general overview of what's going on. So if you do find any mistakes in my methodology, please let me know, and if you want to chat about the results, I still have my spreadsheet and all my data points saved on my computer, and I would love to hang out and chat about it. And if you would like to see me do this for the other roles such as melee, caster, tank, and healer, let me know and I'd be happy to take another day of my life grabbing all these numbers manually for you. And as for the reasoning behind why I chose to look at 5.2 numbers instead of 5.3 numbers, is because 1, the top rank parses in the 5.3 logs are very volatile right now, and there are not nearly enough runs out there to justify considering the top rank parses for 5.3 as great runs. And 2, I actually started to compare the 5.2 Bard to the 5.3 Bard side by side, and they were honestly indistinguishable from each other. So as always, I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm sorry that it took me so long to get another one out. I feel like it's been forever. I don't know if I'm gonna keep my camera angle like this. I kind of had another plan, but I'm still waiting for some things to come in. So let me know if you like the way this looks. But I'm glad I can finally get back to making content for you guys, and I'm super appreciative of all the support that you guys have given me, like literally everywhere, from YouTube to Discord to in-game. I've like had people message me in-game, which is insane. Like, hi. Twitter, Twitch, JoJo's Etsy shop. Like, you guys are honestly awesome and I don't deserve it. If there's anything you would like to see me cover in my future videos, let me know. And if you ever need someone to talk to, feel free to reach out to me on Twitter or Discord, and I would love to talk to you. I hope to see you all again in future videos, and I hope you have a great day.